Thanks very much, Niamh. Just with regard to Deputy Barrett's point, I think we discussed here at previous meetings the idea of maybe having more interaction with schools and colleges and to get the message out about the huge importance of development aid or humanitarian assistance programmes and the benefits that the funding by the taxpayer is bringing to the most impoverished and poorest people in the world. And of course the whole area of climate change, the most vulnerable communities in respect to climate change are the people in the poorest countries again. We saw that some weeks ago in Malawi and Mozambique with the typhoons and that, and villages and settlements being literally washed away. I know that the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade recently took an initiative in regard to bringing the United Nations flag to each school. I think that's to give the opportunity to get the message that since we joined the United Nations 64 years ago, I think it was, the important role that Ireland has played in the United Nations as a very small country. And only last week some of us met with one of the senior United Nations officials who was speaking to us about disarmament, and she referred constantly to the initiatives of Irish governments back in the early days when we were in the United Nations that led to non-proliferation treaties, and they were extremely important treaties in regard to the whole area of disarmament. And that was in our early days that as a very small country we were able to influence and get treaties eventually agreed to at the United Nations. And as a committee we engage on a regular basis with international non-governmental organisations, with Irish non-governmental organisations. So throughout the year of our work, there's a huge part of our work, as all my colleagues can attest to, in relation to development aid, humanitarian assistance, all of that. And indeed, in our own report that we did on Irish aid back some years ago, back more than a year ago as a committee, we had sought submissions from Oxfam and others, and we did highlight and reference the whole area of the need for disability inclusive development. And your contributions here today are very welcome from each of you. And I think when Fatimata spoke about women, the double vulnerability of a woman with a disability, and of course one of the frightening statistics that you imparted to us today, as well as the women with disabilities are 2 to 3 times more likely to face gender violence. It's really frightening to think of that. And of course, people with disability cannot be an afterthought in development policy. And we don't have an executive role, but we will engage, as we do all the time, with the Taoiseach Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade, with the Minister of State, and also with Irish Aid directly on the issues that you have raised. And we will ensure that the very important points and the very important issues that you raised here at our meeting today, that they are brought directly to the Taoiseach and to the Department of Irish Aid. And in our future discussions at official level and at political level, we will raise again the very important dialogue that we have had today. And you can be assured of regular dialogue with representative organisations such yourselves on all of these many important matters that concern people in the developing world, and particularly people with a disability as well. So again, a sincere thanks to all of you for your contribution here today.